Hello, everyone. Welcome to IT Tech Talk. I'm your host, Joel Ward, and with me today is Ari. Ari, how are you doing today?
Good, good. Appreciate you having me today.
Oh, it's great to have you. I know we've had to reschedule a couple of times, but I'm really glad to get you on the show finally.
That's
So
good.
Ari, we've got to talk a little bit, and I got to know you a little bit off the show, off camera. So I'd really like to get to know my viewers to get to know you. Could you give like a brief overview of your what got you started, your life, or whatever you feel comfortable sharing?
Look, I think what I want to share today is, the last 20 years of my work has been all about trust-based selling, how to help people in business to be able to generate sales, grow their companies without having to sacrifice their integrity along the way. And people hate the idea of being a salesperson and that negative stereotype of selling. People want to help people. So I found the bridge to be able to do that in a very compact way called Unlock the Sales Game. And there's a whole body of work around that, success stories, and lots of tips I'll give today around that concept.
Awesome. And you actually have a couple books. I can see them in the background. You have like what, 3 or 4 books now?
Yeah, this is Unlock the Sales Game
Mhm.
is one, Trust Authority, and a book about my son as well, which we can talk about. And I've got a new one coming out this year called The One Call Sale.
Awesome. So you've now I've actually published 2 books myself and have them on Amazon. What was your process? When I just curious, my readers have or my listeners have heard me talk about my books and what the process was for me. What was the process like for you when you were writing your very first book? Like, how did that when you were writing, like when you were putting all your thoughts together, how did that feel like getting all your thoughts out there? And then when you published, how was your feelings? Like, I got my work out there. Like now people can read what I'm trying to, explain.
Well, like my goal is to scale myself because I can't be in more than one place at one time. So how do I grow my business? So I had to capture the essence of my IP, my core message in a way that into a vehicle, into a vessel that can replicate myself basically. So I really decided that was important. Otherwise, I'm going to be just going one client at a time forever and really not really grow. So I decided one weekend to just crank the whole thing out. I had an outline. I just jammed it out in a hotel and I just got it finally done.
That's awesome. Um, so now you're on your 4th book. You said you're publishing your 4th book here. When's that coming out?
Later on this year.
Awesome, awesome. And actually, if when we're done with the show, I'm going to have you send me links to all those, or if they're on Amazon, I'll just grab the links myself,
Best
and then
thing
I'll
just go to unlock. Best is go to unlockthegame.com. They're all there. One
awesome.
spot.
I can put that link in the description. People can go to that
Okay.
link and get your books. So Ari, you was talking about your son. Do you want to give a little dive into that a little bit and give us a little brief overview of that?
Yeah. So he's a really an inspiration for all me and all my clients. What we do. When he was born 18 years ago, the day after he was born, we were told that he had Down syndrome. And at first, we didn't know what it meant to our lives. Then we realized we had a gift on our hands. And if you know someone who has Down syndrome, you know that they're special people. They're loving. They have no hidden agenda. They're transparent. They're just beautiful people. And he impacted me so much in my life. I wrote a book about him, about what I learned about him, my life lessons about how to be centered with people, how to be not have a hidden agenda, how to build trust with people. And boy, he does it so well, as you probably noticed when I was down. They're very much like that. They're very loving. And so he's very much an inspiration for me and my work around trust-based selling. And the book I wrote is called Lessons from Toby.
That's really cool. And it sounds like you're very family oriented, and how you run your business and how you run your life and your private life is very family oriented. I really like that. Not many of my guests talk about their kids. The Benjamin Wasson that was just on last week, he had kids in the background. He's like, I apologize. I was like, no, like I have my kids in the background. They're in the next room right now, banging around. Like I can hear them even over my soundproof headset. So like, no, I'm very, that's really awesome. You're a family. And I will agree to that. My mom actually worked with kids with Down syndrome in the school board system for a good while, and then she left and just raised all 5 of us. But I got to go with her sometimes, and they're really awesome kids. And I know a few families with Down syndrome kids, and they're pretty awesome. Yeah, so I can 100% agree with that. So Ari, one of the things we talk about in the show is entrepreneurship. What made you want to get into the entrepreneurship world? Like what give me a little background in your life. What really made you in your growing up? Did you think about entrepreneurship all the time, or is this something that you just all of a sudden decide to do out on a whim, or what was the thought process?
I never thought about it, but I had something happen to me, a story I'll share right now that got me into it, catapulted me into it unknowingly. But a while back, 20 years ago, I used to be a sales manager in a software company, a high-tech business. We were actually the original Google Analytics, the online tracking data tools for websites. And I was managing 18 people underneath me, salespeople. I was a sales manager at the time. And the big opportunities came across my desk. Got this one phone call from a website, got the phone call, big, huge company. The guy's like, hey, Ari, we love your stuff. Can you do a demo? And can we meet up on this? I said, great. So we scheduled a call for Friday with a conference call. And if I close this one sale, Joel, it would double the revenue in one sale. That's how big it was. So the day finally came, Friday, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm in my conference room with my CEO. I closed the door behind me, and on the speakerphone in the middle of the table, the old school ones with the Star Trek looking ones. And I had the speakerphone. Dial tone comes on, and I dial his number. He picks it up. He's like, hey, Ari. I'm like, hey, how's it going? I go, good. And then he says to me, let me tell you who's with us on the line today, or let us share with you who's with us. I was like, oh, great. I know that someone else would be there. Next thing I hear is, my name is Mike, I'm CEO. I was like, oh man, CEO of the whole company? It's amazing. My name is Chris, I'm head of global IT. Awesome. My name is Julie, I'm head of marketing. Amazing. I mean, everybody on this call was a decision maker. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen today because they're all there. So I introduced myself. I started, we logged in and gave them a demo to show them what it looks like to collect their data in real time on their websites. We did it ahead of time. I'm showing this to them, walking through everything. And I start hearing this noise on the phone call, like, wow, this is great. This is amazing. They start asking me all kinds of questions. How does it work? How do we install it? Who are your clients? And of course, I had all the answers. I mean, there was so much chemistry on this phone call. It was like a love fest on the phone. You know what I'm talking about? They got the questions. You got the answers. You sent us stuff. Oh, this is perfect. It's so going to happen. So an hour goes by. We're having an amazing call. They're loving it. I'm excited about this. I'm doing my thing. I'm being honest, open, doing all the sales stuff I'm taught to do. Build rapport, answer objections. Call comes to an end, and my guy says to me, Ari, this is great. We love it. Look, give us a call in a couple of weeks. Follow up with us, and we'll move this thing forward. I'm like, oh, thank you, God. I was so excited. And I took my hand to reach for the speakerphone, hit the off button. As I'm reaching for the off button, by complete accident, now I said divine intervention. My thumb hit the mute button instead of the off button. They were right next to each other on the phone, and I hit the wrong button, and a small click happened, and they thought I hung up the phone. In that split second, a voice inside of me said, Ari, go to the dark side. Be a fly on the wall. Go where no one's ever gone before in the world of sales. And I pulled my thumb back for a couple of seconds. They started talking amongst themselves, thinking I had left the call. Now, this is not a trick question, but what would you imagine they would have said after a call like that? What would you expect them to say?
So on a call like that, especially an important call, is that I would have been like, wow, this guy is kind of jerky. Like, he just hung up on us. Like, we might have had more to say, I would have waited. I would want.
Oh, no, they thought we hung up, but they're talking amongst themselves. So we finished the call. They were happy, but they didn't know.
Okay, good. Yeah, like,
stay next.
They probably would have started talking about the call, maybe, and giving insight to each other. So, and probably maybe even giving good insight, like really good insight, and you were just listening to it.
Yeah, you'd expect them to say things like, hey, this is great. Let's do this thing. Let's sign up with this guy. But what I heard was this, verbatim, word for word. That's why we're here today. What they said was, they said, we're not going to go with him. Keep using him for more information, and make sure we shop someplace else cheaper.
Wow.
Knife in heart twist. I was in a state of shock. Joel,
I would have been too. That's awful. Whoa. And so basically you got knifed in the back right then and there after that really great phone call, and they literally told you how much they liked it and stuff. Wow, that's awful. That's just wrong.
I was like slammed against the wall, literally. I felt like it. Then I hit the off button. I looked at the wall and I said to myself, what did I do wrong? I was professional. I was competent. I was technical. I did everything I was taught to do by the sales gurus. And why did this happen? I realized, first of all, that somewhere along the way, it has become socially acceptable not to tell the truth to people who sell, right? It's okay to say things like, sounds good, send me information. Oh, we're definitely interested. Wait, send us a what? A proposal without any intention of buying. And I was like, wow, I can't believe this is going on. And then I realized what's going on here is there's an invisible layer of pressure that flows underneath every call you have with a potential client. Now, if you don't take that pressure out of the process and be aware of it, you'll always hit the wall. The wall is where they hold back from you, don't tell you the truth, forcing you to chase them and get stuck in the dysfunctional, dehumanizing process of sound that we all hate. That's where I invented my whole new approach and a whole mindset shift where the goal is to unlock the sales game and to focus on trust building only, not the sale. Let go of your own goal, diagnose their problem, build trust with them, and that'll accelerate your speed and double your sales. That became the whole premise behind my unlock the sales game approach over the last 20 years.
That's awesome. No, I really like that. And you know, that's kind of, and it's embarrassing on their part because it's like they didn't even know you were on that call. Like they didn't even know that they thought you hung up and they were still listening, or you were still listening. And you know, I would think, you know, later down the road, and if you talked about later down the road and they've heard you talk about it, they're like, wow, that's embarrassing. Like he heard everything. Like we're gonna, you know, like I would have been embarrassed later down the road finding out that you were still on that call, like, and I was like talking bad about your sales technique. Like that would have been, you know, very embarrassing for me. So let's go into something else. Let's go dive into the sales game. So what makes you like sales so much? I'm not in sales. So I used to sell cars and I hated it. Like I like the money, but I hate it. What makes you like the sales game so much that you want to talk about and unlock it for people?
Because I've redefined the definition of what selling is. See, the old way of selling that you hated is the same way people feel selling is today. Is the definition of pursuing, closing, convincing, persuading, chasing, following up. That whole chasing game is like still exists in people's minds as if it was 1980. It has not changed. Yet the world has changed. Your prospects have changed. Trust is now at the lowest level it's ever been before in the world of business. So you have to change your definition of what selling is. And I've done that by reinventing the concept around selling is not about closing the sale anymore. Selling is about building enough trust with people. When you have enough trust with people, that doubles your sales. So it's ironic in that it's very contrarian because the goal is to let go of your goal to almost be a doctor-patient relationship where you're the doctor, they're the patient, you diagnose the problem, and in that, you build trust with them. That's the premise of my new book coming out.
So I like that very much. I want to ask you this question, and this is something someone actually on my show before had said about when you're an entrepreneur and you're starting your business, and especially when you're have a product to sell. When you have that product, you need to sell yourself daily. Don't sell yourself short, but sell yourself daily. Market that product every day. Market, you know, as much as you can. Get your face out there, get your name out there. Walk amongst the streets, meet with people. Is that true in the sales world for you, or is that a different version of something?
Well, you need to make contact with a possible prospect for sure. So if what he's recommending is do marketing to get in front of people, that's probably a good idea. But once you get there, what you don't want to do is start pitching, presenting, persuading, and closing. Instead, you want to basically diagnose their issues to see if they're a match for you or not. Where you're selecting them, they're not selecting you. You don't need to be selling your services or your product. You need to basically building trust with them around them feeling that you understand them more than anybody else. So this is really shifting the model away from your solution and not being excited about your solution. But I tell my clients this, I tell them, fall out of love with your solution and fall in love with your client's problems.
I like that, and I'm sure this is stuff you're probably going to talk about in your upcoming book, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. We are actually getting close to the time. I want to ask you one last thing before we end the show. Is there anything that you would tell, like just this? I ask this question every other episode. I feel like I ask it in a different way. Is there anything you would have told a young Ari before you got into the corporate game about what you would do now, like what you're doing now to young Ari who was at that sales call?
Well, good question. People ask me that all the time. They say, what would you do now if you go back 20 years on that call? How would you handle the call? And the answer is, I never would have had the call, because I would have found out beforehand what their agenda was, got to the truth, and not pursued it. And that's the whole premise behind this approach. Your goal is to get to the truth and not the sale.
That's really deep. So you wouldn't even have taken that call if you had known firsthand what their intentions were. You wouldn't even have taken that call. That's pretty deep. Is now one last thing, and we're actually getting up on our time. One last thing. Is there anything you can offer a young entrepreneur that listens to this show? I know I have a couple, or just a startup or somebody who listens to my show who's, you know, trying to think about starting a business, something that they can do to better their sales, or change the way they're doing their business in the sales realm.
I'll keep it simple. Stop selling and build trust instead. And if you resonate with that message, then get my book, Unlock the Sales Game, at my website, Unlock the Game. Or I do a live streaming show once a month on LinkedIn called Stump the Guru. You can jump in, throw me your biggest challenges, see how I go.
That's awesome. No, I actually sometimes I'll dive in real quick and watch that. But I have very little time anymore. The show is like I had to make time for this show even. But no, yeah, definitely. I will leave all the links, and I think I'll get your LinkedIn if you feel comfortable sending to me all the links there. I'm sure that's on your website. And then we'll get that in the show links so everybody can check it out and get your book. Ari, it's been great having you on the show. I'm glad we finally got to do this. If there's anything else you want to add real quick before we hop off, feel comfortable and let's go ahead.
I'll just say, don't be afraid to reach out to me personally on LinkedIn. Say hello, connect with me. Let them know you heard from me here, and just be open to making a change in your thinking. If you can change your thinking, you'll be successful.
Awesome. Ari, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been great having you. And for all my listeners out there, I look forward to hearing you in the next one. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.